So, guys, what do you get when you start with a really cool idea, and then you set it up with some really cool plot hook, and then you have an anime that has a really cool first theme song that becomes hugely popular, and then your manga becomes hugely popular. I'm talking knocks One Piece off the sales charts #1 slot, hugely popular. Well, obviously, you develop a fear of success, throw it in the blender, grill it down, and throw it out the window. Because today, we're talking about Attack on Titan.
Oh man, I thought we were talking about the Tomodachi Bros podcast, season 2 coming soon. Parentheses, never.
Coming soon. No, it is coming soon. Actually, Cog sent me some episodes because apparently something catastrophically awful happened, and part of it is now lost content. So we're going to have fun trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again on that one. But speaking of walls, let's go to the walled city. Let us go to the earliest days of Attack on Titan. Because, guys, you guys gotta understand. Dutaku comes to me and goes, Snek, there's this really cool new series, and you should check it out. And I was like, oh, tell me all about it. And he's like, okay, well, they send cockroaches to Mars. And then I'm like, no, not that one, the other one. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, there's this big walled city. And outside the city, there are these gigantic inhuman titans. And they just kill and eat people for fun. And the humans have to make, like, super jetpacks and razor blade swords to kill them. And I'm like, I am sold. Sign me up. I want to see this right now.
You have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, these two series started like within weeks of each other, which is crazy.
We'll revisit Terraform Mars before this episode is out, I guarantee it.
I was about to say, I got to say, Attack on Titan never did succeed in having sheer, like, what the crapitude of, like, some of the two-page spreads that Terraform Mars had. Like, that, there's several scenes where there's just, like, some of the abnormal terraformers just with their, like, giant bodybuilder physiques.
George.
Just literally just posing, and it's like, I'm not sure how to handle this.
George. So, immediately, we get introduced to the city of Trost. And inside is apparently this weird Eurasian mishmash of peoples. And the main character, Eren Yeager. And he is living a life that is as average as a walled city constantly fearing for its continued existence can be. And he lives with his mother and his father and his adoptive sister, Mikasa, who is Japanese because this is a Japanese series, so of course she is. And, you know, and their best friend, Armin. Everything is pretty okay, except for the fact that outside of the walled city are the Titans. And so far, the wall has held up under scrutiny, and everything is good. Up until it isn't. Suddenly, everything goes wrong as the outermost wall is destroyed. And Eren's idyllic little peasant life is ruined forever as his mother is brutally, quite brutally, killed before his eyes. And the trauma leaves him thirsting for revenge. So he joins the recon / expedition / cartography / whatever name they decided to end up using for it. I was reading back in the era of the fan translations, so the terms were very interchangeable at the time.
In the anime, or at least in the Koei Tecmo version, I have not actually seen the anime. I do not plan to, because Funimation, good riddance to bad rubbish, as it were. I refuse to give them or Crunchyroll money.
So the only anime we've seen was Abridged on Titan.
Yes, and I am just got to say, Abridged on Titan was way better than the Team 4-star version.
Agreed.
Sorry, Takahata. Your joke sucked.
Also, you did not have show tunes, so... I'm sorry, I know it's controversial, but I liked the show tunes in Abridged on Titan. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I thought it was good too. But anyways, back to your point. They used the Surveyor Corps
Okay.
as the company, the military company they joined. That
Okay.
was what it was called.
Fair. So the whole thing was the Survey Corps basically had the unenviable task of going outside the walls to see what the Titans were up to, which is obviously the most dangerous job one could have in this world because you're outside the big comfy walls.
Yes, everybody wanted to be in military, police, and wall rows because those would be, you'd be able to hobnob with the aristocrats, whereas the Surveyor Corps were considered basically like, oh, you're gonna die.
Yeah, your life expectancy is now-ish.
But here's the thing, though: all the main characters are part of the Surveyor Corps because you'll notice all the badasses come from the Surveyor Corps. Oh boy, I'm the editor's favorite character, Levi, who inexplicably just the best at everything. Oh boy.
Controversial statement incoming. Levi was basic. If Levi is your husbando, you have garbage taste beyond garbage taste.
Honestly, I agree, and I kind of feel the same way about Gojo. And everyone's like, "It was so sad when he died." I'm like, he had such a BS power, and it's like he's just it literally. Speaking of which, people complain about Escanor and Seven Deadly Sins the same way. Except I'm like, no, because he had a huge weakness in terms of his overwhelming power.
Eren, Mikasa, and Armin become part of the Survey Corps. And Eren kind of shows kind of a natural aptitude. Like there's this bit I remember that I actually thought was very clever, where he's struggling really hard to use the three-dimensional maneuvering gear, which is basically the not jetpacks I was talking about earlier. And he's fighting really hard, and then when they go to assess it, they're like, "Oh, it's been malfunctioning this entire time. So you've been fighting this incredibly uphill battle and still doing really well despite that." And I was like, "That's clever." Because that shows Eren's raw determination. That is a great setup to a potential arc that never gets fulfilled because we're still talking about Attack on Titan.
I mean, I will say this: the bit where they're actually training and they're in the harness, and he's there, and he's like, "I actually managed to be level." It's really cool. It's a darn shame, though, that's upstaged by the fact that Mikasa basically is like, "Yeah, I just don't even try, and I'm just better than
I'm just
you."
perfect at everything because I just am. Why? I just am. Is there any real explanation? No. Okay then. Okay then.
Because I'm part of the Ackerman bloodline. That's not established yet. Okay.
That doesn't come up till way later. To skip a couple story arcs, the Titans break out again, and the Titans start attacking, and they're like, "Well, this is bad. We have to fight. This is totally just gone crazy." And Armin basically just kind of has a mental breakdown and locks up in the middle of a battlefield. And so this one Titan's like, "Hey, free lunch," and goes.
You have to. Come on, dude. You have to explain the part where they actually are like, they train and they're like, "Man, we just graduated. It's gonna be so cool. We're all gonna be, like proper soldiers now." And Aaron's like, "Yeah, we're probably never gonna see combat." At which point, then the lightning bolt out of the blue, literally out of the blue, zaps right behind him, and they see the colossal titan again.
He's just
And
like,
it's like,
"Sup?
oh,
Oh no,
oh,
I have spoken too soon."
oh no.
The Titans invade. Armin breaks down. Just kind of has this freak out moment because he's so in and out of his depth, and he's about to get killed. So Eren is like, "No, that's like my best friend. I'm going to intercede." And Eren gets eaten by a Titan, and everyone's like, "Well, he tried, he gave it his best shot, but yeah, that's that." Except it's not that because Eren decides that he's tired of just flying around and decides to just punch his way out. And suddenly, he's 30 feet tall. Or 30 meters, I forget what the exact measurement for the hunter was, but the point is, Eren transforms into a Titan. And this is the first time. Remember, back then, we didn't know that Titan shifters were a thing. This was the first time we saw definitive proof that a human becomes a Titan in any way, shape, or form. This was the very first time. So Eren transforming was one, a huge deal that completely changed status quo. Two, was totally awesome because he then just gets like punch his way out from inside this other Titan. And he just goes around and he's punching Titans' heads off, and it's super cool. So everyone's freaking out. Eren turned into a Titan. He has this new power. This is incredible. It was just this really, really hype moment. I remember people like the internet exploded when this reveal happened.
I was just going to say, I thought it was also really interesting. And they actually kind of, this is one of the few retcons that I was like, oh, okay, that they kind of elaborate on that actually made more sense was the fact that like he actually got several of his limbs chewed off in the process of getting eaten. And then he crawls out of the nape of the neck when they're like, Eren, that's you. And like, yeah, he has all his limbs and he's completely fine. And they're like, how did that happen? We saw your arm get, chewed off. What's going on?
Oh, that actually got an explanation.
Yeah, what happens is basically when they are transforming. Are you familiar with the original Ymir and all that, like the will of the devil of the earth?
A little bit. I read a synopsis. I didn't read the actual like material.
Okay, so the original Titan holder, the one who actually like found the devil of the earth that allowed her to have the Titans, basically allows her to exist in a plane outside of reality, alongside this devil, which is basically this giant planarian thing.
All right.
Okay.
I'm with you.
And so basically while she's there, all Titan shifters will like just they will go to this plane and she will see them. And then she will literally build their Titan bodies and rebuild their wounds out of this like sand-like material. And it takes her like centuries to do this in the world that they're in. But because time flows, basically they are out of time while in this dimension. Even though it takes centuries and upon centuries for her to like build these giant sandcastle bodies, it doesn't actually. It basically appears instantaneously. On top of that, that also explains later on when Eren is accosted by the research corps. Hanji mentions the director of the research corps, who they have to like basically collaborate with, because they're like, oh, what's going on? Why are you suddenly able to turn into a Titan? Are you an enemy? Are you an enemy spy? Which is actually hilariously coincidental, might I add. But she, and yes, Hanji is a she. I don't care what you think, what your headcanon is. It's clearly a woman.
It's a woman, and the author basically confirmed as much. The whole thing was it was supposed to be ambiguous, but later it was like, yeah, it's a lady.
Hanji mentions that, like, hey, Titans are actually really light compared to how tall they are. Why are they like this? That's really weird, and that's the answer to that. They're actually made out of matter, not from that dimension.
Checks out.
Or that's the retcon that it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the entire ending bit with like the will of the founding Titan and like the devil of the earth, which they don't really ever explain, by the way. There's just this ancient devil that just exists within all things, and just getting in touch with this devil basically allows you supreme power across time and space. Honestly, the entire thing with Ymir is like was probably one of the biggest letdowns for me, considering the fact that they have Ymir who trains with them, who is not the original Ymir, by the way. She just takes on that name. Then there's another person who looks like her, who later Hanji brings up her notes, and she actually like encounters a abnormal 2-meter tall Titan who starts talking. and they actually have a conversation for like a good hour before the thing actually like bows to her and starts being like, great Ymir, what do you wish of me? At which point that she starts to like just basically have a mental breakdown, starts screaming and hurling abuse at it. At which point the Titan like breaks out and just like eats her in pieces. And so you're just wondering, what's up with Ymir? Why is this such a big deal? When later on we learn that Ymir is actually the very first of the Titan shifters, and basically the entire reason why Titans are the way they are. But once again, it's kind of a giant. It's a giant. Honestly, it feels like a giant retcon.
Half the series kind of becomes retcons. So,
yeah,
let's we'll fast forward a tiny bit for the matter of pacing. Around the time the words Titan Village are brought up for the first time, I started falling off. Because it was very clear, and even the author himself stated that the story was going a different direction than he originally intended. Now, I was talking to Dutaku about this earlier, but here's the breakdown and my understanding of it based on some shoddily translated interviews that were done and some context clues in the story itself. It starts with this very clear action horror vibe. And it's very clear where it's going. It's very cut and dry. Eren hates the Titans. They killed his mom. He has mommy issues. He's going to kill the Titans. That's his deal. That's very clear and understandable. Then, Attack on Titan blows up. And in a way, it itself became a Titan. Like, I wasn't joking. Attack on Titan knocked One Piece out of the #1 selling manga slot for several consecutive weeks. I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was a noticeably long time frame. And again, we're talking about One Piece here. Like,
yes,
kind of a big deal.
The manga,
yeah,
basically.
So
yes. I want to say it was sometime in 2012.
That sounds about right.
Because it was like it wasn't terribly far into the run, but it was just like it was a meteoric rise in popularity. Yeah,
it was. And during that time, there was a few interviews where the author explained his thought process. And he kind of explained, oh, this is where I got the idea for the Titans, and this is where I had the idea for the walls. Like, what would humans do if Titans were real? And then later interviews, he's going, it blew up so big, I had to change the story. And I think that the idea was the original story didn't have any particular moral outside of there's big spooky monsters and we need to kill the big spooky monsters, and this is how we're going to do it. When it became popular, when it became a juggernaut, suddenly it was, well, I want to make it meaningful. I want to pull a Mother 3, and I need to make this my magnum opus with a deep, meaningful story.
Okay, don't be throwing Isayama under the bus like that there, dude. I don't like the way Attack on Titan ended, but I mean, come on.
Okay. That was unfair. That was unfair. Attack on Titan was way better than Mother 3. So... Thank you. Please keep posting your hate comments. I thrive on them. So... Anyway, now that that's been clipped and taken out of context, even though it's true, it very clearly suddenly started taking on this very strong anti-war theming. And here's the thing, an anti-war theme is not inherently a bad idea, but I will say it's a very trite one. It's been done. It's been done a lot. Is it true? Yes. Is there a certain profundity, something... kind of wonderful about it? Sure, absolutely. But not at the cost of the pacing, the immersion, and the world building up to that point. The entire extremely ham-handed way that Eren went from, angry underdog protagonist to whiny mega dictator man who wanted to literally just annihilate all life outside of Trost. It was dumb. I didn't like it. And, I get, he tried to kind of explain it from the perspective of, like Aaron and the Jaegerists, because they formed this kind of cult of personality around him, where they're like, yeah, like if we don't become Titans, like we're gonna get crushed by these outside forces. Well, they have Aaron adopts this mentality of if I win, then well I win, and my people will live on and will be safe. And if I lose, then I can be set up as history's greatest villain, and my friends will have an avenue out, even if I don't. And I'm like, okay, I get that. From his perspective, that's kind of like a I win no matter what happens kind of situation. But it's a huge gamble, and so many contrivances that come up along the way. It becomes
Oh man.
really frustrating to read the manga past the point where the Titan Village is first brought up.
Oh man, it gets even worse because at the very end, basically, he just becomes the successor to Ymir. And so instead of Ymir being the one stuck in the what they call the coordinate, basically that dimension out of time that I talked about, that's what the
Right.
coordinate is. That thing that they were like looking for the whole time, it literally is this place out of time where the original holder of the Titan powers resides.
Right.
And so he is stuck there now. Ymir is freed from the coordinate, but now he's there, literally just hanging out with this weird planarian demon in this giant sand desert for all eternity. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And then the ending shows that time just goes on, and yet more wars continue happening, even though all the Titans. Oh, by the way, all the Titans disappear. That's how the story ends. They
But the power of the Titans does not actually disappear. The
right,
Titans themselves disappear, but the power of the Devil of the Earth still remains because the old shrine, with the place where Ymir met the Devil of the Earth, still exists. And the very end, as I recall, there is a boy who goes down into the shrine the way that Ymir did, the very beginning,
yeah.
and so the power of Titans is going to return eventually.
I also believe there is a slight discrepancy between how the manga and the anime end. So I believe the anime's final shot is Mikasa lays her scarf on Aaron's grave by their childhood home, and the background just shows it go like rapidly into the future, showing different eras of wars and peace, wars and peace, wars and peace, implying the circle of violence will never be broken. And the manga, I believe, ends with the boy going into the shrine.
Yeah, because the way it's supposed to be is that there's the grave to Aaron, which becomes the shrine, which is where the shrine is. And it
Yeah.
basically there's this like giant tree, and it basically is like the same type of situation as where Ymir is, where it's like this giant like tree with this pit. I'm just gonna say this though, as much as people like to complain about, Attack on Titan's ending, which I admit, I will concede honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the way it ended. For me personally, I fell off when a certain basket weaving forum called the BRY trio, Barnhart, Rhino, and Ymir, or what we thought was Ymir at the time, basically revealed themselves to Aaron. Yeah, but which is basically about the time that we started hearing of the Titan Shifter Village.
Yeah.
We hadn't even heard about Eldia or Marley or that entire nonsense yet.
Nope.
But basically, at least you guys got in. My favorite horror fighting supernatural series, Terraformars, hasn't updated since 2019, and I'm kind of fearing that it just never will. And that's a shame, honestly.
It's really good. Terraform Mars is so good. And again, these two they launched right side by side. So we were
Mm-hmm.
eating good because we were just like, these two are awesome. Oh, I can't wait to see what they do next with it. Now they're very different kinds of
Mm-hmm.
ideas, but they were both really cool ideas. So we were on board.
Electrical eel, an electrical organism. Oh, that was so cool. It's a darn shame that he was being cuckolded. I mean, he got the last laugh in more than one way. You know what I'm saying, am I right, boys?
Yeah.
If you're not
Yeah.
familiar, has a very clearly cheating wife. He loves her, and she's basically like, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, and he basically pulls this crazy move to sacrifice himself against like an entire gang of these cockroach cavemen. Don't ask. We'll have to do an entire thing on Terraform
Yeah, I was about to
Mars.
say that's going to be its own episode.
And at the very end, they have the wife go to like, I'm gonna here to collect, Adolf's, and that's his name, by the way.
Yeah, it's actually
That's his
Adolf. That's
name.
not a meme.
I'm here to collect his pay. At which point they're like, we have no records of this. At which point, and then the German director is like, yeah, oh, it's that woman again. Well, she's not going to get anything else from us. And I'm just like, dang, thought patrol.
We will reserve an episode with Terraform Mars because one, I need to reread it because it's really freaking good, and two, I think it'll make a really interesting compare and contrast against this episode. Now,
Honestly, my one issue with the Viz translation is I was so used to the fan translation, which actually had in that bit the entire thing about electric eel, an electric organism, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And I want to say they don't translate it like that. They're like an electric eel, the only organism that can utilize electricity. I'm like, oh, that's not nearly as cool. I mean, it's the same thing, technically speaking, but it's not nearly as
it's
cool
not
as
as
an
punchy.
electric organism.
Yeah, it's not as punchy, right? And speaking of punchy, let's talk about Attack on Titan insofar as like what kind of impact is it going to leave? Like what is it going to look like in the post AOT world? Well, I'd love to tell you because we're not there yet because they're still making sequels, spin-offs, crossovers, like Line Monster Farm in the month of November 2024. The whole event was Attack on Titan themed, and there were monsters. Like there was a Mochi based on Levi, a Monol based on Wall Rose, and a Kijin based on Annie's Titan Shifter form. So, and there's like another movie just dropped, and like that one actually ends with a post-credit sequence that implies that Eren, Armin, and Mikasa were just real people living in the real world, and they never were like in this weird Titan-filled hellscape. Which honestly, I feel is kind of a better ending than they got in Attack on Titan. Also, for all you guys out there who are curious, yes, Mikasa becomes your goth GF. So go nuts with that information, I suppose.
Itaku approved. I saw that. I only sent the professor a thumbs up. I'm like, yeah, this is only an improvement as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. And here's the thing. On the whole, I think the reason there was the backlash to the latter half of Attack on Titan was because the first half was so good. It had a great build-up. It had good characters. It had this really interesting scenario. Not entirely unique, obviously, but an interesting take on the notion. So just really, really good stuff. And I think it will be fondly remembered going forward for, on the whole, having that great first half. And again, I think it's going to be the same with, My Hero Academia nuts. It's just, it started off really good and stayed pretty good for quite a while afterwards. So whatever you thought of the ending, you got an ending. It did end.
Yeah.
And
Not my cavemen cockroaches on Mars hasn't gotten an ending though.
No, sadly, no. And for those who were disappointed, my advice is don't be upset that the latter half wasn't as good. Be glad that you had the good parts and that you can remember those fondly. Because I think it will definitely leave a lasting cultural footprint of indeed truly Titanic size. I think that is definitely what it earned for itself. Does it rightfully deserve the backlash? Yes. Yes. Very yes.
Or it could be like, One Piece, and it could just, go on for all eternity. And remember 2011 One Piece when an Ace just died, and you're like, this is the most beautiful thing that has ever happened. I really don't like Ace. Why are you always in every single Shonen Jump fighting series? Why? You're not even that important.
But guys, don't you love Ace?
he's more interesting in his own spin-off series when they actually like go into the things that he did rather than just, hey guys, I'm here. You gonna do anything? No, I'm leaving now.
I'm going to
Like, oh,
immediately
okay.
die, the author will immediately regret it, and I'll come back as Sabo. Because I'm literally exactly the same character. With the exact same devil fruit.
Oh god. Do you get the sense that maybe the professor and Itaku don't like Sabo? Do you maybe get that sense?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Now, if only we could get, Pog to regale us with the stories of Lord I Hate Naruto and his feelings on Naruto.
Okay, so we mentioned it before, but I feel this story bears repeating because it is truly the stuff of legend. Ditaku comes to me and goes, Snek, there's this Naruto game. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And he's like, no. It has a character creator. And I'm like, okay, I am like 1,000,000% more interested now. Keep going. So he's like, you have to make your own ninja, and you get to make their own power set, and you can like, you're supposed to be like working together in teams. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a co-op character creator action game. And he's like, yes. And I'm like, sign me up. I'm in. So we make our characters, and then we encourage Clockwork and Cog to join us. And I make a cool ninja with like healing powers, and Dutaku makes a cool attacker with like tricks and traps and neat stuff. And then Cog shows up.
I made an attack ninja, yes, who was from the Thunder tribe. So yep. I indeed, in fact, actually had a cool rapping ninja who constantly was doing Killer Bees dances because I think those are the funniest emotes.
I had a lady ninja from, was it the lake? Rain? I forgot the exact word. She was the water tribe, basically.
Village in the Rain, yes.
Yeah, Village in the Rain. And I was like, what should I name her? And I was like, oh, it'd be really funny if I gave her kind of a weird, incongruous name. So she became Ikako, or Squid Daughter. And I thought I was going to take the gold medal for goofiest character, but I was wrong. I was wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Cog shows up with this guy who is an old man with 1,000-yard stare, with always open, unblinking eyes. And he simply named him I Hate Naruto.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you think to yourself, man, I hate what Attack on Titan did, and I really hate Itaku and the professor's opinions, do not understand. The hatred that you feel is only a fraction of the hatred that Cog feels towards Naruto.
Yes. So, Master I Hate Naruto became the master of all of our ninjas, and he became just this golden meme example that all of us wanted to forever follow. It's like, we will follow you to the ends of the earth, Master I Hate Naruto.
So, for like 4 hours, we were playing this game, and the entire time, Cog was doing his old man judge voice. It was awesome, and we kept talking about like how he kept like increasingly like he's like, I went to war and I fought against CC's Pizza and I won. And then I went to fight the Vatican and I won. And then I fought the moon and I won. It's like, you do realize the moon's the final boss of Naruto. Yeah, I won that too.
He didn't care. Master I Hate Naruto cannot be limited by such small thinking.
I mean, I guarantee you, he probably was with, Commander Duckin. The two of them fought in the war,
That checks out, actually. That checks out. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, remember the good times, because some series don't get to end, but will be heralded as, man, that was really good. And then there's some series that continue on forever and become The Simpsons. I mean, a tire fire.
I mean, One Piece. I mean...
One Piece. I mean...
Futurama. I mean...
No, now I'm sad. Futurama was really good.
Futurama was good, except it keeps continuing.
Yeah.
They can't ever just let it, just rest.
Which sadly is...
Okay, I got it.
All right.
Futurama is Dracula because they keep using dark, evil magic in order to revive it.
To keep bringing it back over and over again.
Yes.
All right, that's fair. Then you have The Simpsons, which is some kind of immortal power lich that just won't die.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Attack on Titan, which took a wrong turn before its ending. But you know what? There's a part of me that still likes it. It's hard for me to say, oh, I hate Attack on Titan. No, because I can't say that. Because I don't.
I just had a thought.
What's that?
I just had a thought. Speaking of another series that kind of veered out to left field, and we both were like, yeah, this very clearly degraded in quality after a certain point. Rave Master. I know you and I both like the entire Pumpkin Doryu arc.
Yep.
But you have to admit, after that, it went way out to left field.
It got insane, and there was a few too many Deus Ex Machina moments. And, like, Rave Master played fast and loose with its own rules from the start, but it felt like they got a little too carried away by the time they got to the Mystic Realm. And I'm just like, this is a little out of hand. And then the final boss happened. And you know what? We'll save that for an episode 2, because Rave Master is one of my favorite manga series. And it really shows that every author out there really only has one story to tell, and they just tell it in slightly different ways.
No, honestly, I agree with you, and I think that Eden Zero is probably on it. I really hope that Mishima either just does shorter stories or basically just does something else, because I think that hit the entire idea of cool young man has dead dad, tries to cope with dead dad, magic BS happens, hot girls surround him, he fights dragon at the end of time with giant magic, has to blow it up, and then all the hot girls marry him. The end. There's not much else you can do with Eden Zero. Eden Zero is probably the best version of that we're going to get.
Probably.
Oh, and for those of you who are not in the know, I basically just spoiled everything that Hiro Mashima
he's ever written, including
yes.
the one that was only 3 issues long.
Including Monster Hunter Orage and yes.
Now that'll be an episode for another day. I think that's all of my profound thoughts. Did you have any last words of wisdom before we sign off today?
Hate the game, hate the player, but you can't hate the player because Tog hates the player more, especially if the player is Naruto. I don't know where I was going with that.
That's wisdom. You can tell because it doesn't make any sense at all.
I should run for president.
I know, right? Anyway, thank you for joining me, Master Ditaku.
It's a pleasure. I love complaining about things.
Oh, yeah, no, we'll have plenty more of that in the near future. And we will see you guys in the next one.
Auf Wiedersehen.